Hello, this is Donald V2 and this is my video response to Let's Compare Megaman X to Valis77 versus UltraJMan. The reason I'm making the final scoring a video response instead of a comment is more or less so I can explain more and also explain my reasonings why I did some of the scoring the way I did. But also just because it's a finale thing and I really wanted to be more entertaining than just another comment. So, first of all, to explain my scoring system, when I first looked at this, I kind of figured it to be a skill/speedrun type thing. And since I watched Valis' video first, I realized there's also an item collecting thing. So my scores were based off of that. Mostly since everyone had to collect the same amount of items, except for Valis with the 3 extra items. I didn't put too much weight onto the items in general. More or less, I just made them worth 1 point apiece, and kind of at the beginning made a difference, but towards the end it really didn't make a difference. The thing that did have the most weight was the points I called progress and the boss points. The boss points were how well they did to their boss, whether they used charge shots, or they used the enemy's weakness, or they just piece shot them to death. Piece shot them to death was worth the most points. But the progress one's probably the most confusing. Mostly it's just how far they get in one video based off how many videos they do, more or less. It's just how far in the stage they get through one video. The more stages they go through one video, the more points they get. Even though in total I've looked at this and really since they're going through the same amount of stages, it really had no difference with each other. It did kind of keep a track of who was further and whatever, and the first person to actually reach the goal soonest would have gotten more points, which is kind of what's going to happen here, but I'll get to that later. The thing that's truly left out of this really is how they went through the stages in general, just by themselves, which really didn't make a difference. If they used an item to make their progress go faster, well, I mean a weapon I should say, it didn't matter. That's more points for style, I guess. I really didn't grade style either, or how fast they went through a particular stage. Just how fast they went through the stages in general. Anyways, now that I've really explained my scoring system, I'm going to now do a quick recap for anyone who missed anything. First of all, the first video was really close. More or less, each person got through 2 stages and the intro stages. So there's not much that really happened here. It's spectacular, anything like that, but the only reason J-Man was able to get ahead in this one was more or less because he was able to get through a little bit more of the 3rd stage before Valis did, and because he was also able to collect 3 more items that Valis did not collect. So Valis only collect more or less 2 items for that video, completely missing the items in the Wheel Gator stage for the time being. In the second video, both players lost a couple of lives, which pretty much put J-Man in the lead because J-Man only lost 1 life in this one, where Valis lost 2 lives, which completely canceled out his boss score, more or less, because he pretty much had about 20 points for the bosses and 10 points, and he lost 10 points for each life he lost, so pretty much losing the entire bonus he got for the bosses. In the third video, J-Man was still in the lead more or less because his boss scores were still way higher than Valis'. Even though J-Man lost another life, Valis was still way behind because of his boss scores, because his health kept was either way too low in each fight or because he used charge shot at some point. Other than that, pretty much that was hurting him. That was starting to show wear on Valis for this part of for this video, and that's why J-Man was still in the lead in this part. Video 4 is when the tides of the battle turn, mostly because in this one J-Man gets a game over where Valis was still getting small bits of points here and there and so forth, and didn't lose any lives in this particular video. But J-Man was unfortunate enough to not only lose 2 lives, but also get a game over here, more or less. So that was a total deduction of 40 points. but one of the lives lost makes sense because there's really no other way to dodge it. But the thing is I deducted the 10 points from Valis as well for this part, so that particular life loss really didn't count for anything, but it did. But the fact that he still lost that life, still lost the life in the fortress stage, one of the fortress stages, really hurt him in this part, which is pretty much why Valis takes the lead from this point on. Video 5 was pretty much J-Man going through the Maverick rematch, more or less, while Valis was still catching up from having to fight those 3 bosses, pretty much. So the thing is, when I did the part where the Maverick rematch came into, I decided not to count any of the Maverick rematch points for 2 reasons. One, they've already fought those bosses, so their scores for that boss is already counted. 2, when J-Man did his run, he said he was going to, when he posted a little annotation saying that he was only using the weaknesses to show off what they did, which then also got me to think and talked to one of my friends about it, and we pretty much decided not to count the Maverick rematches at all. So the only scoring for that stage is the end result of that stage, how much health they had left. Now on to the final results. I kind of changed the rules of the boss part for the last 3 bosses only because, here's a major reason, because the last 3 bosses, or 2 of the 3 bosses you really can't beat with the P-shoot. So, especially I think the final boss you cannot defeat with the P-shoot. So I changed the rules to, instead of having the P-shoot and whatever count for anything, using weaknesses, P-shoot, whatever, you just have the health thing, and the health will be worth double points. Pretty much, instead of a 5th, it'd be a 10th, more or less, of their health would be a point. So they got more points for having more health as the bosses. But this is also when another penalty came into play too, because on both end bosses, I was going to count if they used a subtank throughout the fight, only -5, but anyway, if they used a subtank, it was going to be a penalty. So yeah, anyway, the final bit of this of both playthroughs pretty much look identical. Pretty much a little bit of health loss here, a little bit of health loss there on both sides, more or less. So pretty much, let's just cut to the chase and get to the final results. So here are the final scores. First of all, let me explain. First of all, J-Man got a huge boost, because a 20-point boost, because he finished first. This kind of takes away the whole fighting the other 2 extra bosses that he didn't fight in the game. So it kind of balanced it out. If not, would have put him over the lead if he didn't get a game over. Or you can also look at this and say it canceled out his game over, but because he didn't fight the 3 extra bosses, or 2 extra bosses, I should say, because he did fight 1 extra boss with a different scoring system, where he got a huge boost of points from that, by the way. Against Dark Zero, he got a 9 out of 10 for that one. Against the other 2 bosses, he got 3 out of 10, and then lost. For the first Sigma fight, he got 3 out of 10, and for the Sigma final, he got 7 out of 10 because he used a subtank through that fight. And because of that, so that's his end result score was, as shown, 201. Valis, for his 6th video, he went through the fortress stage, which gave him about 14 more points, 15 more points. I gave him about 15 points because he was able to get through that stage, and then he entered the final stage, so I gave him 1 point for that. And also he got 4 out of 10 for the fortress stage, exiting the fortress stage, where J-Man only had about 1 point for the fortress stage because he was about to die at the end of it. But anyway, other things that contributed is they both used a subtank, But other than that, really nothing else. So this is just the final scores. I'm pretty sure the only thing that really changed the tide of the whole fight was the fact that J-Man got a game over. From what I guess, everything else was extremely close. But the reason that Valis is 15 points ahead is only because of the game over. And because he kind of had a few more bosses, Valis had a few more bosses he had to fight. But more or less because of the game over. Because if it wasn't for that, J-Man would have taken the win. J-Man would have had the win. Straight up. Well, that's my results, and I want to end it here so that I can actually post it on YouTube without it getting cut off and having to split it into 2 parts. Well, that's my final scores, and this is Donald V2 signing off. Have a good day.